The Grandmaster Within. Chapter 1. The World on a Screen. Josh had always loved his world in pixels. At 10 years old, he could navigate through his favorite mobile games with lightning-fast reflexes, swipe through short videos endlessly, and never missed a match of his favorite soccer team on TV. His room was a colorful mess of game consoles, posters of soccer stars, and his ever-present phone, which he gripped like a lifeline. His father, Mr. Parker, was a quiet man who loved the steady rhythm of chess. A hobbyist at best, he spent his evenings hunched over a chessboard, studying positions and practicing tactics. 3 years ago, when Josh was just 7, Mr. Parker had tried to share his passion with his son. He had set up the board, explained the rules, and tried to ignite a spark in Josh's young mind. But Josh, who was more interested in the flashing lights and sounds of his games, had dismissed chess as boring and slow. Josh's younger sister, Lily, was a different story. She had been curious about the game from the start, watching their father with wide-eyed fascination. By the time she was 7, she could play a decent game, and now, at 8, she was beginning to beat her father in friendly matches. Josh watched this with mild indifference, more focused on reaching the next level in his game than on the battles unfolding on the black and white board. But Mr. Parker hadn't given up on Josh. He believed there was a chess player hidden somewhere inside his son, waiting to be discovered. He just didn't know how to reach him. Chapter 2. The Offer. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned gold and red, Mr. Parker found Josh sprawled on the living room couch, eyes glued to the TV. His favorite soccer team was playing, and Josh was lost in the excitement of the match. His father sat down beside him, glancing at the screen.
"They're playing well?"
Mr. Parker remarked casually.
"Yeah, but they need to tighten up their defense,"
Josh replied without taking his eyes off the screen.
"Maybe after the game we could play a match of our own,"
Mr. Parker suggested, his voice hopeful. Josh barely glanced at him.
"Dad, you know I'm not into chess."
"I know, but think of it as a challenge. You like challenges, don't you?"
Josh finally looked at his father. His interest piqued slightly.
"What kind of challenge?"
Let's say, if you can beat me in a game of chess within a month, I'll buy you that new soccer game you've been wanting.
Josh sat up, intrigued.
"Really?"
Really, but you have to actually learn the game, not just play randomly.
Josh considered this. A new soccer game was tempting, and if it was just a matter of learning chess for a few weeks, how hard could it be? Besides, he'd seen Lily play, and she made it look easy enough.
"Okay, deal,"
Josh said, a competitive glint in his eyes.
"I'll beat you in a month."
Mr. Parker smiled, pleased.
We'll start tomorrow.
Chapter 3. The First Lesson. The next day after school, Josh found his father waiting at the dining table, the chessboard already set up. Josh sat down reluctantly, still more interested in the latest video on his phone.
All right, let's start with the basics.
Mr. Parker began. He explained the pieces, how they moved, and the objective of the game. Josh listened, though his mind kept drifting back to his phone, which he had reluctantly left on the kitchen counter.
Got it?
Mr. Parker asked after the initial explanation.
Yeah.
Josh said, eager to get it over with. They played a few practice rounds, and Josh quickly realized that chess was more complicated than he had thought. His father's moves were deliberate, and every time Josh thought he had an advantage, Mr. Parker would counter it with ease.
"This is harder than it looks,"
Josh muttered after losing for the third time.
It takes time, Josh.
His father said gently.
But you're smart. You'll get it.
Josh wasn't so sure, but the thought of the new soccer game kept him going. He'd just have to try harder. Chapter 4. The Chess Club. A week into their lessons, Josh was still struggling to keep up. He could see the patterns, but they didn't come naturally to him. His father was patient, but Josh was growing frustrated. One day, as Josh was heading out the door for school, his father called after him.
Josh, have you thought about joining the school chess club? It might help to play against other kids.
Josh frowned.
The chess club? That's where all the nerds hang out.
Mr. Parker chuckled.
You might be surprised. Plus, it could be fun.
Josh doubted that, but he was getting desperate. If he was going to beat his dad and win that game, he needed all the help he could get. So that afternoon, after school, Josh reluctantly made his way to the chess club. It was held in a small room near the library, and when he walked in, he was greeted by a handful of kids, all hunched over chessboards deep in concentration.
Hey, you're Josh, right?
A boy with glasses and a friendly smile approached him.
I'm Alex, the club captain. You here to join?
Yeah, I guess.
Josh replied, feeling out of place.
Cool. Grab a board and we'll get started.
Josh found a spot and set up the pieces. Alex sat across from him and they began to play. To Josh's surprise, Alex was easygoing and encouraging, offering tips and explaining strategies as they played. The other kids were also welcoming, and for the first time, Josh didn't feel like an outsider. After a few games, Josh started to see the appeal. Chess was like a puzzle, each move a piece that needed to fit perfectly into place. It was challenging, but also satisfying when things clicked. Maybe, just maybe, there was something to this game after all. Chapter 5: The Hook. Over the next few weeks, Josh found himself more and more drawn to chess. He still loved his video games and soccer, but there was something about the quiet intensity of chess that intrigued him. The club meetings became a regular part of his routine, and he started to improve, slowly but surely. At home, his father noticed the change. Their games became more competitive, and Josh began to hold his own. Mr. Parker was proud, but he didn't let up. He still won most of the time, but Josh was getting closer. One day, after a particularly tough game at the club, Alex pulled Josh aside.
Hey, you're getting pretty good. Have you thought about entering the school district tournament next month?
Josh was taken aback.
Me? In a tournament?
Yeah, you've got the skills and it would be great experience.
Josh hesitated. The tournament sounded intimidating, but the idea of competing, of proving himself, was tempting. Plus, it was a chance to really push himself, to see how far he could go.
Okay,
Josh said finally.
I'll do it.
Alex grinned.
Awesome, we'll help you train.
Chapter 6: The Temptation. As the tournament approached, Josh found himself balancing his time between chess, school, and his other hobbies. The more he practiced, the better he got, but it was hard work. There were days when he just wanted to relax, to lose himself in his games, or watch soccer without thinking about chess. One Saturday, with the tournament just a week away, Josh woke up feeling exhausted. He'd been practicing non-stop, and his brain felt fried. All he wanted to do was play his favorite mobile game and forget about everything else. He grabbed his phone and flopped onto his bed, ready to dive back into his virtual world. But as he played, a nagging voice in the back of his mind reminded him of the tournament, of the promise he'd made to himself and to Alex.
Just a little break.
Josh muttered to himself. But hours passed, and before he knew it, the day was gone. He hadn't touched a chessboard all day, and guilt gnawed at him as he realized how much time he'd wasted. That night, as he lay in bed, Josh made a decision. He would still enjoy his games and soccer, but chess had to come first, at least until the tournament. He'd worked too hard to throw it all away now. Chapter 7: The Tournament. The day of the tournament arrived, and Josh was a bundle of nerves. The school gym was packed with kids from different schools, all gathered around rows of chessboards. The atmosphere was tense, but there was also an undercurrent of excitement. Josh spotted Alex and the rest of the chess club and joined them.
You ready?
Alex asked, clapping him on the back.
As ready as I'll ever be.
Josh replied, trying to sound confident. The tournament was a whirlwind of games, each one more challenging than the last. Josh faced opponents of all skill levels, some who were easy to beat, and others who pushed him to his limits. But with each match, he drew on everything he had learned, every lesson from his father, every strategy from the chess club. As the day wore on, Josh found himself in the semi-finals. It was a tough match, his opponent a seasoned player from another school. The game stretched on, the pieces slowly dwindling until they were both down to their last few. Josh's heart pounded as he calculated his next move. He could see a path to victory, but it was risky. If he made one wrong move, it was all over. Taking a deep breath, Josh moved his queen into position. His opponent's eyes widened in surprise, realizing too late what Josh had done.
Checkmate,
Josh said softly. The referee confirmed the win, and Josh felt a surge of exhilaration. He had made it to the finals. Chapter 8. The Final Game. The final match was the hardest game Josh had ever played. His opponent was the reigning champion, a girl named Emma who was known for her aggressive style. As they sat down at the board, Josh could feel the weight of the moment. This was it. The game began, and Emma immediately took control, her pieces moving with precision and speed. Josh found himself on the defensive, struggling to keep up. But he didn't panic. He remembered his father's advice: stay calm, think ahead, and don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Slowly, Josh began to turn the tide. He saw openings in Emma's strategy, small weaknesses that he could exploit. He played patiently, waiting for the right moment to strike. The crowd around them was silent, the tension in the air palpable. As the game entered its final stages, both players were down to just a few pieces. It was a battle of wits, each move carefully calculated. Finally, Josh saw his chance. He sacrificed his bishop, drawing Emma's queen into a trap. She hesitated, realizing too late what had happened.
checkmate,
Josh said, his voice trembling with excitement. The referee confirmed the win, and the crowd erupted in applause. Josh couldn't believe it. He had won. Chapter 9. The Victory. Josh's victory was celebrated by his family, friends, and the entire chess club. At the awards ceremony, he was presented with a trophy, a shiny symbol of his hard work and determination. As he held it up, he felt a sense of pride he had never known before. His father was beaming with pride.
I knew you had it in you, Josh.
Thanks, Dad.
Josh said, grinning.
I couldn't have done it without you.
But as much as the victory meant to him, it wasn't just about the trophy. Chess had become more than just a game to Josh. It had taught him patience, strategy, and the value of perseverance. And, perhaps most importantly, it had brought him closer to his father and introduced him to new friends in the chess club. Chapter 10. The Balance. After the tournament, life returned to normal for Josh, but with a few changes. He still played his video games and watched soccer, but he also made time for chess. It had become a part of him, a new passion that he couldn't imagine giving up. At school, Josh was known as the district chess champion, a title that surprised those who had only seen him as a gamer and soccer fan. But Josh didn't mind. He liked that he could be both, that he didn't have to choose between his hobbies. One afternoon, as he sat with his father for their regular chess match, Josh smiled to himself. He had come a long way from the boy who had dismissed chess as boring. Now, as he moved his knight into position, he felt the thrill of the game, the anticipation of the next move.
Checkmate,
He said, grinning as his father laughed in defeat.
Well played, Josh.
Mr. Parker said, shaking his head.
Well played.
Josh looked at the board, then at his father.
I guess I finally got the hang of it.
His father smiled, a proud and knowing smile. Yes, you did, and I couldn't be prouder.
As they reset the board for another game, Josh realized that chess had become more than just a game. It was a connection, a way to challenge himself, and a reminder that with determination and hard work, anything was possible. And as he looked forward to the future, to more games, more tournaments, and more adventures, Josh knew that he had found something special in chess, a Grandmaster Within, just waiting to be unleashed.
The end. We hope you enjoyed The Grandmaster Within.